Hello and welcome back to Financial Questions Answered, the channel where we're answering financial questions that people submit to us. Just as a reminder, this isn't for tax, legal, or investment advice. This is for entertainment purposes. But today we're diving into a very good question that was asked. The subject of it is called Preparing for the Worst. This is a very touching submission, so it was one that I wanted to select and answer here on the channel. So let's dive in. I was diagnosed last year with breast cancer at 27 years old. My recent scans and lab work show that it may have spread and is metastatic. I'm not giving up hope yet. I know people can live for years with metastatic breast cancer and still maintain a quality life. I don't want to be stupid either though, and want to be prepared to leave my fiance in a good state. I have government student loans, a car loan, some credit card debt, and we are currently renting. We've been saving to buy a house next spring. I have a good job that has been very gracious during this time, and I get decent benefits. My main questions are, is there someone specialized in this area that could help me with planning process, personal finance, lawyer, estate planning, etc.? Would it be still wise to buy a house? I'm thinking it would be better to have an asset and use my life insurance to pay off the mortgage if it comes to that. What documents do I need to have together for my fiance? Thank you in advance for any advice. First off, I just want to say our hearts go out to you. I'm very sorry to hear about your diagnosis. We're wishing you the best. Stay strong throughout this process. We're wishing you good health. And thank you for reaching out with this question. I know you have so much going on in other areas of your life. The financial aspect should not be one of them, or if we can help in any way, this is what we're here for. So once again, our hearts are out there for you, and we hope we can be some help in this time. First, foremost, I just wanted to start off more on the personal side before I dive into the financial aspects of it. Just with such a large diagnosis and a big life-changing event like this, it's just an important time to take a step back and think about things and think about what experiences you may want to do, what events you may want to go to, what people you may want to see, what relationships may need mending. Just take a full evaluation of how things are going, how things could be improved, just memories you want to make, how you want to leave things if the worst does happen. So just use this time to reflect on that first and foremost, because those are very important items before we even dive into these financial pieces. So as we're diving into the financial and legal aspects of it, I'm going to give my high-level advice. Once again, seek a professional in this area before doing anything. So you're 27 years old, you're out working now. The first thing I would do is go to your employer and verify your benefits. This can be done through your HR department or through your payroll system in many cases. Just verify what potential disability policies you have, short-term, long-term disability, what the specific criteria is for each of those policies. There's different elimination periods. And then also the life insurance. Verifying what that death benefit amount is, how that's structured, how it will be paid, and who the beneficiary is of that policy. You had mentioned that you may want to use that to designate it towards your fiance so that he could use it to pay down a mortgage on a house. It's very important that you ensure he is the beneficiary of that life insurance policy for him to receive it. We've seen several cases where people fill out that beneficiary paperwork before they meet that person, or after a relationship happens to end, or some life event change happens, and it's the old person left on the policy. And if something happens to that individual, the person that's on the policy gets paid. It doesn't matter if that wasn't your intent at the time of your death. It's the person that is written as the beneficiary when the death happens. So that's so important to review, and really across everything. It's not just the beneficiary on your life insurance policy, but the beneficiary on any investment accounts, any checkings and savings accounts. Those may be called a transfer on death or a designation similar to that you want to look into, but just verifying everything is labeled as you would wish it to be. On top of that, something that's really helpful is to go through and just kind of outline what you have. You could create a personal balance sheet that just says, here are all of my accounts, here's the values for the life insurance, here's where it is, here's the value, the death benefit of it. You could also create a sheet that lists all of these items and who the beneficiaries are of each of those items. On top of that, something that we see that can be very useful in these times is writing down username and passwords to different accounts, very important logins, anything like that, and keeping those in a place that's accessible, and the people that you want to access that information after you potentially were no longer with us, making sure they know where that's at. That can be a big stumbling block for people and just an extra headache as they're dealing with the emotional aspect of loss. We're just trying to take as much off of the plate of everyone as possible, and being organized up front will help the most with that. The next piece of material that I wanted to address is student loans. You said you have some federal student loans. You're 27, you're out working, and you're not married to your fiance yet. If something were to happen to you the way the current federal laws are written, again, verify this, but as it is today, those student loans do not affect your fiance. They have a benefit and a grace that if something happens to the person that has federal student loans, those are forgiven by the government if that person were to pass away from something like cancer. So that's not something you need to worry about in this scenario. If you were to refinance those federal student loans, try to get a lower interest rate, there may be a scenario there that your fiance could be on the hook if you guys did get married. So that's something to really think about. Personally, if I were in your case and in your scenario, I would leave them as federal student loans so that you have this added protection and benefit if something were to happen, which again, we hope it doesn't. Next would be the car loan. If you are to get married, this loan may affect your fiance, future husband. But again, just thinking about this scenario as a whole, would your current fiance, keep the car if you were no longer with us? Would he sell it off? If he did, then that car loan would be paid off. So that's just something to think about. Again, not a huge item. Likely the car would be sold and that loan would be paid off with that sale. But if you are sharing a car or something like that, that would be something potentially you could take on if you were married. You did mention something briefly about credit card debt. This is a big piece I wanted to address. I'm not sure if you meant just a month-to-month balance that you're paying off in full each month, or if you are carrying credit card debt every month that is carrying over to the next month, and you're making minimum payments and you're having large interest rates accrue on those credit cards. That's something super important to address and figure out what's going on, what your payment plan is for that, and how you're going to get those paid off if you are carrying a large debt over every single month. Those interest rates are extremely high. In a lot of cases, that's 15 to 25% on those credit cards. And once the interest rate starts compounding, those are so hard to catch up with over time. And if you were to get married, your fiance likely could be on the hook for those after you were passed. So that's very important to address and just get those paid off as soon as possible. With the house, I just wanted to talk about from a higher level, is this something that you want to have as an experience if something were to happen to you? Is this a memory that you want to make? Is this a memory that you and your fiance want to have together where you've purchased a house, you're living in it together, even if it is for a shorter period of time or hopefully a long period of time? This is the first and foremost piece that you want to think about. if it is one of those experiences and something that you really want to have as part of your life, I would say do the financial planning and figure out how to make it work, because that is one of the most important pieces. This is about maximizing your life and living it to the fullest potential here. Additionally, as part of that conversation, just speaking with your fiance and talking about how his feelings could be around if something were to happen to you, would he be able to afford the house on his own? Making sure that's thought about. Would he be able to feel comfortable living in the house alone after your passing, and having those memories? These are just all important factors to consider as you're going through this process. But it seems like a good thing to be thinking about. And again, as you mentioned with the life insurance piece of it, you could talk about how that life insurance payout, depending on the amount, could help pay off the mortgage, or help with the payments each month, because he would be receiving that as a lump sum. Typically, these life insurance policies, if it is just from your employer and you don't have any other outside policies, typically receive one-time salary. So that's something to think about as you're evaluating these mortgages and how he would have help going forward if something were to happen. And lastly, just with end-of-life planning, I'll reiterate it again, making sure those beneficiaries are updated, trying to keep things organized, making sure the important people know the important information and where to find it. That is so important. And finally, just if there's anything that you really want to have an input on, there's things called healthcare directives that you could fill out with your medical provider, and also give to your fiance or whoever you want to be in charge with your medical advice. If you were struggling there, that this document would outline what you would want done to you in certain events. So a common piece that they talk through in those documents is if you were in a coma for the foreseeable future, what kind of treatment would you want and how would you want to be taken care of during that time or not taken care of during that time. So just highlighting specific items that are very important to you. There are also things such as a power of attorney. You could create a will just to designate items. Depending on your asset size, there's also trusts and things like that. So an estate planning attorney could come into play here, but it doesn't sound like it will be, just based off of the other loans and things like that. Maybe for a will, but these are all important things to consider. And finally, just with end-of-life planning, if there's any input that you wanted to have with a service for yourself, memorial service or burial, if you wanted to specify cremation or not. That's just an important conversation and tough conversation to have towards the end of life as well. Just something to think about so that people know what your wishes are if the worst does happen. And again, I'm really sorry for what you're going through. I hope you stay strong, stay positive. I hope this video helps, and it helps take a little bit of the financial stress off and just can guide that area a little bit more while you focus on being healthy and taking care of yourself. So we'll be thinking of you, and best of luck. Thank you for tuning in. If anyone else has any other questions they'd like to submit, please do so, and we appreciate you guys. Thank you.